My name is Febe. I almost said I'm an alcoholic. I'm not. Um, I'm a role player. It's been less than 2 hours since my last scene. It was a good scene. It's a crazy scene, but it was a good scene.
Hi, I'm Tiryn. I've been role playing for about a year, a little bit more than a year, and I'm in the same guild as Baby. This is so weird to say.
It is weird to say, isn't it?
And I'm Lluvin, also in the same guild. Was also in the same scene.
Have you been role playing for long?
Not really done the roleplay that we do in this guild. The ones that I'm used to are like more like D&D and basically just more tabletop-y. I was part of a LARP club, quote unquote, but more like with a little bit more roleplay. So I've never really done this type of roleplay before.
I saw a couple of role players in Guild Wars 2. I mean, I recognized it as roleplay because I actually knew what it was about. And my friend, he actually does a bit of forum RP. So, it was more of it was like on impulse kind of thing, like, hey, should I start role playing? Should I try? I kind of want to try. And then I started going to like Guild Wars 2 RP. I was like, oh my god, this is such a huge roleplay community. And I just looked through everything and I joined Pale like the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, this is it. This is what I've been waiting for my whole life.
Like, yes, I knew this is what my life is about. I was waiting for this day. Like, nah. Yeah.
Everything has led me to this moment.
Yeah. So, like, before that, I had no idea, like, how to actually roleplay. I just saw, like, a couple of people doing it, and I was like, that is so cool, I want to do that as well. Because I used to write stories and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I think that's a interesting thing. Like, so you've only been role playing for, you said about a year-ish?
Yeah.
But you've been writing for, like, how long have you been writing stuff for, like, stories and stuff?
I mean, I wrote stuff when I was a kid, but then, life caught up and then I stopped. But it's always been like a lingering interest, like in the background kind of thing. So, yeah.
Did you used to do writing too, Lluvin?
Not writing, but like imagining stories, because I'm usually not the sit down and write for a long time type. I do like the whole creative writing stuff.
Was Guild Wars 2 the first place you role played?
Yeah.
Then yeah. How Lluvin, how did you get into Guild Wars 2 RP?
Like I've heard about it and seen it, but I'm part of another guild, whose guild leader was trying to considering starting RP with a few people, but none of us had actually done it before. So she was talking with like different guild RP guild leaders who are trying to like get them to teach her like how to role playing Guild Wars, and apparently most of us don't have an extra guild slot, and she was like leader of the guild, so I think between those two conditions, she couldn't actually join anyone, so no one was really willing to teach her except apparently Merke. So yeah, like that led to me lamping Merge a few times, and then after lamping the dark visual, I decided to join.
Oh, that's right. I remember your friend.
Mm-hmm.
Just vanished off the face of the earth. Yeah, I got into Guild Wars 2 RP from a friend of mine who I've known since high school. Like, I've known her forever, it seems. And she was she was playing Guild Wars 2, and she was in a Nightmare Court guild that's no longer around. But like we would go hiking like twice a week, and every time we would go, she would be telling me about all the scenes that she had done that week, and like all the characters and everything. And this went on for like over a year, to the point where like when I got my tax return, I was just like, all right, fine, I'll get this stupid game, and I'll join your stupid guild because these people sound amazing and I want to be part of these shenanigans. And like as soon as I joined, the guild fell apart.
Oh dear.
Like, because so like it was a Nightmare Court guild, so like my character got captured, and like I sat in, because that guild, so like the guild we're in now in Pale, we have recently started having those weekly court meetings. And in my original guild, they had those, but they also had weekly lessons. So there were 2 days of the week where the whole court came together in different venues for either the court meeting or the lesson. And my character was brought to the lesson to sort of have everyone see her. Because conversions and stuff were a lot different in that court than they are here in Pale. In Dead, my first guild, they were more one-on-one, kept out of court. Like our court didn't have a communal area where a bunch of people lived, where you could go for RP at any given time, where they kept captives. There were no guards. Everyone basically did conversions in their character's own little home or something like that. So my character was brought to the lesson, and found out that it was a Nightmare Court, and that she was essentially captured, and then she was captured and basically put on house arrest in the person who had captured her's home. And people were supposed to come in and try to convert her, but out of character issues and things fell apart, and people basically didn't RP for a month. So I was just sitting there like, I don't know what's going on. I joined this guild. There's been no RP. So yeah. And then after that month, it was like a really small group that had stayed. Everyone else had left. So, I mean, I joined and everything went to shit. Basically. But yeah, so that's how I got into it, was from my friend. And she doesn't RP anymore in the game. So I have 3 characters that I play. All Sylvari, all Nightmare Courtiers in Guild Wars 2. I play I don't even know which one my main would be anymore. I guess it's like a toss-up between Andrin and Cassidius. So Andrin is a Mesmer. I hope to have her learn Mirage things. Nightmare Courtier and a bitch. Cassidius is... Well, I mean, you've met him, but... He's the captain of the court guard, currently a knight, title of justice. He's very, I want to say lawful evil. Is that an alignment?
It is.
Yeah, so I feel like he's more lawful evil. He, I don't even know if he's very evil, just... He has a very strong sense of right and wrong, and he truly believes that Nightmare is the right way to go.
I think I think that would be chaotic law. Chaotic good?
I don't even know. He's so complicated.
I think he's considered maybe lawful versus chaotic is more the way they conduct themselves. So a chaotic person disregards rules, whereas a lawful person follows rules. Whether this rule being something that they believed in or installed in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it would actually be like lawful, either lawful evil or maybe even lawful neutral.
Yeah. Maybe like I feel like he's somewhere in like this weird gray area between the two. Um. Oh, see why you gotta be difficult. Uh, but yeah, like he's very much like, you know, rules are rules and rules are made to be followed, and if you break the rules, how dare you break the rules? The rules are there for a reason. Without rules we have anarchy, and anarchy is nobody's friend. And
Yeah.
like that's why I always like equate him to like a cop, but he's like cop of the underworld because like he rejects the dream and he thinks that like because he was a warden before he was a courtier, so he knows how wardens kind of operate, but he just disagrees with it. He's just like,
Great,
no, this
sweet,
is the right
great,
way to
sweet.
go. So
He
he's
said all I could think of was the stupid brain.
he's something. That's what he is. um.
He's Cagney.
So that was Andrew Nikosi, and my third character is Lily, who is just a sad, broken child, and was my first character that I RP'd with in Guild Wars 2. She was the one that was captured, and then left alone for a month. So she basically converted herself. She's the youngest of my characters. She's gonna be about she'll be 4 next month, late November, is when her in-character awakening day is or whatever.
Aww.
And she's got a lot of problems. She has like 0 self-esteem because she's just had a series of horrible relationships that were all abusive, like emotionally, and so she just thinks that that's how life is, and she's my sad emo child that sadly gets no love.
She needs it though. Damn it.
She's really good at baking. That's like her thing. That's where she excels. And she's a ranger. I forgot to mention Cassidius was a revenant. And Lily's a ranger. She has like a traveling zoo, basically. She's got a traveling petting zoo. See what animals she has. She's got a bear named Pooh.
I love poo.
She's got a tiger named Whiskers. She has a tiny tiger cub, who I don't think I've named yet. She no longer has Leisha, which was a snowy Sahuet owl.
That was a sad fucking story.
It was. She does have a raven named Diavol. She has.
Hey, I know that character.
She has an eagle named Rowan. She has a gangly old black cat named Titania. She has an orange tabby cat that is very fat, and his name is Sir Lix-a-Lot because he's always bathing. She has a electric wyvern that is about the size of a Great Dane, or a smaller Great Dane, between a fully grown lab and a Great Dane. And her name is Lenoria. She's got. I feel like I'm missing some. She has a Skelk, who is now like the age of mating, who has taken a mate, but we have not named the mate, but his name was Anders.
Yay.
So those are the characters that I RP in Guild Wars 2. I also do non-Guild Wars 2 RP with a friend in it where I play a vampire named Hazel, who is that whole thing is set in like Victorian England because like why wouldn't it be?
Is it under the Vampire Masquerade system?
No, we just do it in Discord, we spent time like creating the universe and everything, and pretty
So it's a
fun.
custom universe.
Yeah, and it's just between the two of us, and we only really post like once a month or so. So it's because it's just us, and this is the only place we RP those characters. So
That's the most fun though. I love custom worlds. My friends and I are trying a world build right now. Takes a long freaking time.
But yeah, so I guess we'll just keep going in the circle. Which one of you wants to go next?
The character I play in the Power Court is named Lluvin. She's a ranger. Her sort of unfortunate thing is basically that when she was waking up in the dream, her dream kind of got cut short from a nightmare attack. So she never saw the end of her dream, which was like her chasing something. So she always has this sense of wanderlust. Sort of because like her dream was cut short, she was saw as an outcast. So she kind of prefers human interactions because they don't judge her for having a weird dream, basically. Her her main pet is a tiger named Tiles. He's very, very well trained, and basically can almost communicate with her on a telepathic level, basically by like looks and tiny hand gestures. Even like she could even send them message via like muscle twitches. She also has a electric wyvern called Shaker, which is actually short for Salt Shaker.
Okay, so my main is Tiryn. She's actually the toon that I started role playing with. I started with a Nightmare Courtier. And then I roleplay her for about close to 6 months plus. Then I actually went on to try human roleplay because back then I was working office hours, so I couldn't really catch like the members of Pale. And I was a little afraid to ask like, hey, do you guys want to roleplay humans with me? Because everybody was like so in love with Subara. Like, maybe I should go and find some other people for myself. So I created a human who is my Kenthan, Setsuna. And that's actually when I got super active in Guild Wars 2 RP forums because I had to go and look for connections and things like that. I found Divinity's Reach Tavern RP. That place can be cancerous. That is a whole new topic by itself. Yeah. But from there, you can sometimes find like great role players lingering among the crowds. Very, very rarely, but you can find them. But I did find a couple of friends, and so Setsuna became my main for those couple of months. That was when Pale actually took a step back because that guild leader back then, we had just finished an arc, so everybody was just taking a break and RP was slow, so that's when I really focused on my human. Then when Murky told me that she wanted to pick things back up in Pale, I was like, yeah, sure. I mean, it was my first RP guild, it's my home, so I offered to help her, and that was when I brought my third character, Eldravanda, into the court. Eldravanda was my dreamer. I created her like just a month before Murky approached me. But yeah, for that period of time, I focused on Eldravanda because we didn't really know where to put like the the other members of the court at that time because of this huge time gap. There was this huge time lapse thing. So I really rotated between 3 mains. It's complicated. But yeah. Each character is like sort of for a different situation, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I guess it's kind of clearer now because now that Lluvin is not officially part of the court, for court stuff like court business and court meetings, I will use Eldramanda, who is the court governor. And for human stuff and the other guild stuff, I would use Setsuna. Lluvin, she's really here and there, like kind of in between another guild and like affiliate of the court, and she's going to have her own personal household RP as well. Like holy fuck! So yeah, she's really everywhere. But at least for Setsuna and Eldramanda, they kind of like have a specific place where I would play them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Lluvin has a wedding coming up.
Yeah, she has a wedding. And let me tell you, role-playing and planning a role-play event, a role-play wedding is harder than planning a real-life event, a real-life wedding, okay? Fucking... Fuck.
When I listed tonight when Cassidius made the announcement that, the whole court was invited to the wedding, I posted the invitation picture and the menu picture that you made up in Discord.
Jeez, I love that shit. That's good shit. Like, oh my god, the menu looks so great. I would go to this wedding. If it was a real wedding, I'd be there.
Thank you. I'm so happy.
Like, I remember when we were... Because Lluvin and Cassidius are getting married. I didn't mention that Cassidius and Lluvin are a thing.
Right.
Yeah. And...
Right.
It's... Like... I remember when we were trying to figure out, like... What was it, last week? We're like, okay, we haven't picked the place, but we just pick a place. And we're like, okay... We already have her dress. Like, that's it, right? Like, we're good. And 5 minutes later, we're like, shit, we need to know what the settings look like. We need her bouquet. We need the boutonnieres. We need the food. We need the glassware. It's like...
If the flowers aren't matching within, like, this hue, just burn them. Throw them out. They're done.
And then, like, after all this, like, Tiryn was like, we were in DMs. We ended up having to make a brand new freaking Discord server for all these fucking plans. Like,
yeah.
And we're just, like, throwing all this stuff in there. And in DMs, like, Tiryn had been sending me all these pictures. I'm like, yeah, they look great. Yeah, it looks nice. I like this. I like this. This is nice, yes. And then she's like, what about Cozy's tux? I'm like, well, that's simple. It's black. And she's like, well, doesn't he need a flower? I'm like, yeah, and it matches Llvurin's bouquet. Done. Like, it's just like, Cassidius is the easy, like, I almost feel like Cassidius is in my head flailing every time she's sending me these pictures, and I'm just like, I feel like I'm channeling my inner Cozy, and he's just like, whatever you want, dear, it's fine. Like... Totally fine. I am 100% behind this. Just like, oh my god, there's so much shit. To the point where we put a thing on 2RP, and for those who don't know, guildwars2roleplayers.com, I think, is an engine site where a bunch of, like, basically the whole roleplay community for Guild Wars 2 congregates and can socialize, and you can look for, like, plots or partners or whatever. And we put a listing on there for a butler for the wedding. And we've had 2 people, like, submit quote-unquote applications and fucking resumes. One person sent an in-game mail. This dedication of this person. They sent an in-game mail to Tiryn, like, as their character with, what was it? I have to look at the picture that you sent me. hang on.
Like a in character reply.
Like an in character app, like it was okay. It says send to 13 White Crane Avenue, which is the arbitrary address we made up for Cassidius and Aviran's home. And says, to whom it may concern, I am sending this missive to inquire after the job posting for head housekeeper at 113 White Crane Avenue. My name is Histola of Night. I have lived and performed clerical work in the city of Lion's Arch for some 7 years, and would like to extend this particular skill set to you in exchange for regular work. It's been some time since I've been employed by our kind, and the prospect holds great interest for me. Please find my resume attached. All the best, H. And in the items, she sent like an item that looks like a scroll of paper.
That's awesome.
It is so
cool.
awesome. Like,
That's incredible.
I love it. And the other
I wish I
person that
had like
applied,
the presence of mind.
right? And she's not even applying for like, cause she's spoken to us out of character and said how she has real life restrictions, so she won't be able to like be around very much to actually be head housekeeper or head butler or whatever. So, but she still wants to be like one of them. And then we have someone else who literally all they did in response to the forum thread was like, I'm interested, hit me up in game. And we're like, okay. So Tiryn poked them and they're just like, okay, yeah, let's roleplay like right now, like in 10 minutes. And she's like, okay. So they did a scene, and like it's just like, dude, this person doesn't even want the job you want, and look at what they've done. And it's just like, where's the other guy's like dedication? So it's great that it tickled me so much when Tiryn showed me that. It's just like, I love this person and I want them in my life.
I love Guild Wars 2 RP. Well, I mean, it can be cancerous, but you can get pretty dedicated people like that as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so great. So great.
It's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Now I'm just like wondering if anyone else is gonna apply. Because, like, if anyone else applies and does that, like, this other dude who's just like, hit me up, like, nah. You go.
Right.
Just move along. Move along, you.
Okay, so my character is Lyris Nerium. She is a necromancer and is right now Squire in Pale. She's a bit of an oddball. She started out really normal. She actually was kind of like the epitome of a dreamer. She loved being a dreamer. She loved having the dream. But she also really loved her deer hearts. She had 2. She was fairly young, relatively speaking, when one of her deer hearts, Adonis, tried to convert her. The attempts were largely unsuccessful because of her love of the dream. She admitted that she would try to, quote, learn the ways of Nightmare to stay with the ones she loved, because she didn't really want to leave them, but she also didn't really understand why they didn't stay with the dream. The second of these 2 deer hearts is Moira, and she had converted before they all had, and had converted Adonis consequently. She believed that Lyris wasn't converting properly because he wasn't being harsh enough on her. He kind of refused to inflict physical pain on her. Moira then devised a plan to kill both of them. She called both Adonis and Lyris to a familiar meeting spot by convincing Adonis that they were all going to run away and be together, just somewhere else. Adonis, being fairly naive for a courtier, kind of bumbled off to tell Lyris. Meanwhile, Moira, using her former position of warden, alerted the others of a nightmare incursion. Adonis arrived first and was thusly poisoned. Lyris, in the meantime, had lost her prize loot and therefore arrived late. When she got there, she had time to witness pretty much like a frothy, sad death, wherein Adonis refused to touch her and kind of pushed her away when she tried to get close. Moira was pissed that Adonis hadn't fully died before Lyris arrived, and pretty much guilts Lyris into thinking that the death was her fault because he was disappointed in her for not converting, and he had pretty much just killed himself as a result. Moira was particularly good at lying, and Lyris was a gullible dreamer, so she wouldn't let go of his hand, though, and Moira responds by cutting it off, and the two get into pretty much a brawl at this point. The wardens arrive and think that Lyris is the courtier because of Moira's previous status as warden. She's chased into the wilds with little more than a severed hand. She hides away in this hut and is pretty much driven mad over a span of several months by her guilt. Moira then tracks her down with the false intent of helping her to contact Adonis and repent. This is where she becomes sort of a dabbling necromancer. Moira convinces her that she can, be forgiven if she contacts the dead Adonis, but obviously he's not really among the spirits. And instead, Lyris is pretty much fed Moira's, real, pissed offness through the spirits. All these ghosts in her hut, screaming at her that it was her fault, and, everything that she's ever done is the wrong thing. It was a great time for her, I'm sure. Lyris is pretty much a product of a few years of random dead people screaming in her head and constant degradation from this Moira character. Whether or not Moira is still physically alive is pretty questionable. It's kind of like a Horcrux situation where she kind of gave her physical energy up to torment Lyris. Lyris pretty much just believes that every evil thing she's thought is her own thought. Most of these include her tendencies to be super romantic and really jealous of any sort of romantic relationships others may maintain. Lyris still has that severed hand, and this is her in-character reason for having equipped the crossing. She also has this pet, Mr. Wormsby, who's pretty much just a dead worm she raised from the dead, and it follows her around and does various gross things.
I mean, Mr. Wormsby is pretty awesome.
He is. He's probably the most interesting part of her character, to be honest. Emoting him is probably the most fun part.
Poor Lyris.
I know, right?
Damn.
Holy shit.
Oh, she doesn't care. She's crazy. It doesn't really bother her now. She'll forget about it in 5 minutes. After all, everything's talking to her now.
God. She also, one of her quirks, which you didn't mention, is that she rhymes everything.
Oh, yeah. You understand how difficult that is sometimes? I have, it's really corny. I have Rhyme Zone bookmarked just in case, because sometimes you just can't freaking think of a good thing to say.
It's that's the thing she does all the time, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot.
It's just a habit, though. I mean, it's almost, difficult to not rhyme my other characters that I don't really RP on as much. Because, I'm so used to it. It's just kind of default. Okay, time to roleplay. Let's freaking rhyme everything.
Right, I forgot to mention, now Javanda's mute.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah. I actually created her as a challenge to myself. She was not a serious tune.
I love her so much.
She's turned into a huge bitch. She's turned into a terrible bitch.
No, this is okay. I still love her.
But yeah, I created her as a challenge to myself to because back there was a period of time I was kind of pissy that that people were making one-liner posts all the time just with Sage chat, and I was like, this is not the RP I'm used to. So I was like, I'm gonna create a character where she's mute, so there will be no fucking Sage chat. And everything's just gonna be actions. And that's the biggest regret of my life.
That's awesome. I freaking love this.
Yeah, I'm actually bringing in a character who's blind.
Ooh. Oh, I have some. This is not a recording thing. I have a bunch of resources you can use because at one point one of my D&D characters was blind. So you can write a character who's not doing weird stereotypical blind person things.
Are there any things you've seen in RP that really just, I don't know, sets you off, or
people who are being overly stealthy, in emotes, or people who are supposed to be in the Order of Whispers, but they wear the uniform, and so it's how'd you know I was in the Order? I'm like, you're wearing the uniform.
It's I don't know, maybe the jacket you're wearing?
The whole get up there. Or people who are emoting, they're looks around suspiciously, reaches into pocket, suspiciously, pulls out item. like, okay, are you up to something? Or are you doing something weird? Because it certainly sounds like you're doing
Like,
sketchy
this
stuff.
person seems very suspicious. Gosh. I think the biggest things that really make me mad the most are things that come from people who have never roleplayed ever in their lives. And it's usually, I'm not going to name names, but I've gotten a lot of it from my PvE guild. And I'm sure the people that I've gotten it from are not going to listen to this. So, but still. Like, I remember specifically last week when I was running fractals with them. And I had been asked, like, oh, like, what had been going on. And the prior week I hadn't really done much RP, so that not much had actually gone on. And one of the people had asked me, like, what do you RP? Like, where do you RP? And I'm just like, I don't really understand the question. Like, anywhere my character would be, like, whatever. And then so I just started talking about, like, yeah, I just started talking about, like, you know, generalizations and, like, oh, you know, like, for example, like, I talked about the court in general, and I had talked about, I don't remember, but every single time you talk to someone who has never roleplayed or, you know, anything, the topic of ERP always comes up.
Right.
They
Literally the first
God.
thing that comes up if ever I mention, like, sometimes for, like, when we're in court events, I have to tell my other guilds, like, hey, I can't, like, do this right now, I'm in a court event. And they're like, whoa, the BDSM guild. I was like, no,
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah, and, like, I had
No.
mentioned how, like, because, with my PvE guild, I use Lily a lot because she's my PvE character also. She's fully geared. She's my go-to for anything PvE. And she's, obviously that includes fractals. So, because they see Lily all the time, I use Lily for my examples and, like, my stories. So I usually tell them, like, what Lily's been up to. So I gave them, like, a really condensed version of Lily's history. Like, you know, talk about your character in 3 minutes or less. And so, like, you know, I was like, yeah, she's had a series of really unhealthy relationships, and so she has, like, this really horrible view of herself, and yada yada yada. And they were like, I had mentioned, you know, after that I had mentioned how after fractals I was gonna go and finish a scene with I said my friend, but it was with Tiryn, that we had started the day before. It was part 2 of Avidius's date in Ascalon.
All right.
And
The birthday.
yeah, the birthday thing. So I was like, yeah, like, we're, you know, as soon as she logs in, I'm going to go and finish that. And then I told them about the scene that we had done the night before. And I left out the fact that, okay, so to segue just a little bit to talk about that scene that they had done. It was basically Lluvin had surprised Cassidius with this basically surprise birthday party on this cliff in Ascalon, and it was really nice and cool because, like, Cassidius doesn't remember when he woke, like, he just doesn't know, so he's never celebrated his awakening day, and all he knows is that it was in the autumn. So Lluvin was like, well, it's autumn now, so I'm gonna surprise him with this little, like, awakening day party. And it was cute, and it was adorable. And, you know, of course, I mean, it's them. I mean, not of course, you guys don't know them when they're not in court, but, I mean, they banged. Like, and, so, but, like, I didn't tell my PvE friends that because, like, I know how that would be perceived. So I hadn't even said that, and then, like, this guy was just like, oh yeah, like, people do that ERP, right? And I'm just like, some people do, yes. And, like, I could already see where it was going. And he was just like, oh yeah, that's just for people who can't get any in IRL. I'm just like, and I'm no longer talking anymore because I know there's no way for me. I'm not going to waste my time trying to explain the differences between ERP and cybersex with someone who's never going to fucking understand it. And with that attitude, they're not going to get it. And I'm not going to waste my time when I have fractals to finish.
You're a better person than I am. I'd literally go off.
You know how many times I have gone off, though? Because every single time, like at least half of the people I interact with in Guild Wars 2 are PvE players and do not RP. And I am usually the only person they know that does RP. And most of those people have the same reaction all the time. And it's just like, disclaimer, in case anyone who is listening is one of those assholes, and I can say that because I am not these videos are not monetized. I can swear in my videos. But like, there are people who roleplay who do not ERP, and that is completely fine. It is a personal choice. Some people are just not comfortable with that kind of graphic, intimate type of writing, and that's perfectly fine. But just to like say unequivocally, ERP does not equal, I just did the symbol like equal/equal like does not equal cybersex. Like fucking ew. No, it does not. Please stop thinking that it does. Like, just throw that concept out of your fucking mind, please.
Like, character is separate from person. I mean, some people, I'm sure, have this weird connection with their characters, but like a character is just a character. Like, they do their character things. It's not related to the person behind it.
Yeah, it's like you are not your character.
Yeah.
Like, these characters are having sex. I am not virtually having sex with that. No. That is no.
Tiryn, you're great, but no.
God, talking about like you're not, your character and like being on the topic of ERP. Just there's a reason why I stopped.
Yeah, I was gonna say we could have an entire video about ERP versus, what it is and is not.
And also, like, it's not okay to have a character that you project onto. Like, I'm pretty sure everybody's got that one self-insert, but like, if you notice, none of my self-inserts get involved because like that's not where that goes. People are very strange. I have to like describe it even to my friends IRL who I trust with like every dirty secret of mine. Like telling them that I like roleplay is more like telling them that I'm in a creative writing outlet. I write things because like the minute you use the term like RP, that's when people start like freaking out. That's like it means something totally different than what it does, which is creative writing outlet.
Yeah, it's almost like, oh my god, you're in a cult.
Yeah, like a weird sex cult, and it's like, no,
it's just like,
it's not any of it.
I can just like, I remember when I first started role playing in Guild Wars 2, and I was hiding it from my mom, and she would come in, and I remember I eventually told her that I was role playing in this guild, and that my character was essentially a villain, and she's like, you do know that you are not, like, that this is not real, right? Like, this is not a real world.
My god. Oh my god.
She's like, yes, Mom. I realize this is a fantasy world.
Are you? Do you know that that's not real? Yes. Yes, I'm aware that I'm looking at pixels on a screen. They're not. I mean, the people are real. You're real, as far as I know.
But yeah, I think we should have like separate like video sections on like, today we will be talking about ERP. Today we will be talking about facilities we discuss.
Today we'll be talking about ERP.
Hey,
In
that
case you've
video's
ever
gonna
wondered
get a
how
lot
to
of
do
hit.
it, here's a how-to. No.
I think people actually need that, especially for people who don't know how to separate OC and IC.
How to ERP in 10 simple steps.
It's like a WikiHow with those really shitty, like, illustrations. Specifically the one of the family by the computer, and they all look, like, really messed up in the face.
You know what
Oh,
I'm bad? If you have a
God.
title like
do you know the
Roleplayers
one I'm talking
Anonymous,
about? Like, I feel like I can't just Google this. WikiHow.
but like
Family.
I just imagine, like,
Well, it worked. I found it. Here it is.
oh my god.
Like, this should be your thumbnail.
But can
It's
you
in
imagine, like,
voice.
your video title is like Roleplayers Anonymous, and then like ERP. That is gonna get so many hits.
Clickbait.
Right?
How to.